Welcome, everybody. October 24th. A couple minutes late, but we'll survive. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Talking to you today about Israel and Ukraine. As always, let's go and me get. While I get TikTok live here. Hang on a sec. Didn't set this up before I started. Otherwise, introduce yourselves as always. Say where you are from if you would. Here's TikTok. Boom. Here we go. Nice sunset. And boop. There we go. TikTok. Excellent. Anyway, hey, Amanda. All right. There we go. There's TikTok. Boom. Excellent. All right. And like I said, lovely sunset as we talk. Just lovely. Anyway, hey, South Jersey. Hey, Kilo. I'm back. Sorry. All of a sudden, last minute, like I hadn't printed out my notes for the show yet. And I was like, no notes. So, hey, TikTokers, YouTubers, Twitchers, Facebookers. Big Hawk. Thank you, Mark Starr. Quebec power. Pouvoir québécois. I did not check out Stellaris yet. I keep meaning to do that. I've been watching The 100 lately, so I've been kind of binging on that. I will write this again. Stellaris. Oh, Stellaris is a game, though. That's right. Hello, UK and Scotland. Brian in Scotland. Oh, boy. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm tired today. I'm always tired. What else is new? We meet again. I know. I'm getting my nice little sunset today again. No colors. We'll see if the colors go nice in a minute. Thank you, Rooster. And Yanaika, depending. Hey, Jetta. Thank you for that. So what's going on, guys? I mean, we'll talk about the news in a second, of course. Yeah, I know. I saw that. Mark Meadows, Trump's former chief of staff, got immunity to talk to the, I think they said special counsel. Honestly, I get so confused at all the different trials of Donald Trump. I mean, literally, it just confuses the hell out of me which one is which after a while. Every time it happens, like there's new news, I've got to sit there and go, okay, which one is this? In any case, I did have a little tea before the show. I'm having a little bit more of my iced tea. Thank you, Alex. I actually make a very weak iced tea so that it gives me just a little pick-me-up without being insane. So, but yeah. Some Trump news today. We're not going to really get into it, but I will give you a little update on the House Speaker's race as well, because that's interesting. Thank you, Allie. And that impacts Israel and Ukraine as far as federal aid coming. Hey, Pedro in Finland. So lots of news. Like I said, maybe another half a minute and we'll get rolling here. Coffee and unsalted butter. Oh, my. You mean unsalted butter in the coffee? Like a hot toddy? Thank you, Marie. Is that what you mean, Kellum? Wait, unsalted butter in coffee, a buttered coffee. Dear Lord, it's Irish? Oh, hi. Oh, no, sorry. Rose is from Ireland. Hi, Rose. I thought you were saying it's Irish. Melted butter in coffee? I don't know. Hey, give me food. Sounds a little crazy. Yeah, I had a hot buttered toddy once. Didn't love it. It was okay. But your grandmother used to make it. That is so wild. Huh. I'd consider it, but I'm not fully convinced here. I like my coffee with cream and sugar and stuff. But anyway. All right, guys. Welcome. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Pedro. This is John Irvo, Heart Attack in a Cup on it. Well, I mean, you do it once. It's not so bad, I guess. But hey, Neil. So, so the deal is, welcome, guys. I am John Aravosis. This is my nightly show. Oh, hi, Thailand. We don't get enough people from Thailand. Hey, Carrie. Where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine, also Israel of late. Thank you, adventurers. The show is Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, U.S. And let's dive in. So the way the show works is I will talk to you guys about the latest news. And then second half of the show, thank you, Mustard, for the gift on TikTok. Second half of the show, we will do question and answer. Thank you, Left to See. And what else? If you've got a question you need asked immediately and you're on YouTube, you can ask a super chat question. I beam to a number of places at once in addition to TikTok. You can ask a super chat question, which I always promise I'll get to that as the next topic. Thank you, Jeremy. Otherwise, I will open season for questions for the second half of the show. I just can't get to everything because there's a lot of questions. So that's the only thing. Thank you, Darian. And I will always try to do a shout out for the TikTok gifts that are the ones we see popping up like that too. I know absolutely nothing about hostages shaking hands. So sorry. I see you ask repeatedly, but I know nothing about that. Thomas, maybe. Let's see. That story, Thomas is saying it looks like the Swedes may be in NATO soon. We're going to talk about that tonight. I'm not convinced anytime soon, but we shall see. So I did want to give you a quick update on the House Speaker race. So as you know, Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives, we have two houses of Congress, of course. The Senate is kind of the upper body. The House is the lower body. Both are elected. The House members have been trying to pick a leader now for 3 weeks. They've not been successful. The Republicans control the House. They picked a new guy, I think earlier today, Tom Emmer, well-liked. Trump hates him because he certified the election and Trump got him killed. Not killed, but metaphorically killed. So Emmer's gone now. So the Republicans are back in chaos. The guy, this is literally the guy they picked this morning. They picked him to be their new guy, and he was going to go up for election, and they kicked him out. So he's toast. Thank you, Kronos. Apparently, he certified, by the way, for the foreign folks out there who may not follow this stuff closely, this guy was torpedoed for being the top Republican in the House of Representatives because of two things. One, he certified the last election. He voted to certify that Joe Biden won, which is the process the Congress goes through. The Congress has to certify the votes. He did that. They don't want him as their leader because he certified that Joe Biden won the election. That's his cardinal sin, okay? The other cardinal sin is he voted to codify gay marriage. But only to codify a Supreme Court decision. There was a Supreme Court decision several years ago that finally made it legal for gays to marry in America. And there's concern about the new Supreme Court that is very Republican heavy, that they may try to strike down gay marriage. So they got something passed through the House that said, look, just keep it the way it is, right? Well, they don't want him because he also voted not to basically take marriages away from gay people that exist already. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Well, you're wrong, Freedom Pete. Freedom Pete says wrong because he's not a conservative. The reason they say he's not a conservative is because he voted for the gays and because he voted to decertify the election. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's like one of the top two Trumpers in the House, came out and said today it's because of both reasons, gay marriage, and he voted to certify the election. So don't give me that. I will not let Trumpers get away with this. Thank you, John S. Nobody who's going to defend the Republicans on this is going to get away with trying to overthrow our country and then claim that wasn't the reason. That was the reason. He didn't vote to overthrow the government, and the Republicans are still holding their people responsible. Thank you, Camacho. But we're not talking about that today. I just wanted to give you the quick update because it's important. It's important. Can't you be a conservative and support LGBT rights? Apparently not. Anyway, welcome to my country. All right, Israel, let's get rolling, guys. So I will tell you, there isn't a ton of news today from Israel. It's kind of the same. The Palestinian government of Hamas sent more rockets to Israel trying to blow up civilians, and the Israelis sent more rockets to Gaza. Same as always. Thank you, life. So the aid convoys eventually didn't get moving. Can't really find a good explanation of why, but the aid convoys aren't moving. They're running out of fuel in Gaza. The Israelis have blockaded it. Thank you, B. Smith. The Israelis, thank you, Big John. The Israelis put out the argument that the reason they won't let fuel in is because Hamas is going to use the fuel, which is a good argument. The problem is hospitals and things will also use the fuel. As I said, for me, this issue is always one big gray thing of confusion because I sympathize with Israel. I wouldn't want to give Hamas fuel either. Thank you, Dawn. They're a terrorist group, and they just tried to wipe out Israel. But at the same time, do you not give fuel to hospitals in Gaza, right? And water and food and water. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I have not seen a good enough explanation from Israel as to why they are stopping, food, water, medicine, fuel from going in. Fuel. Interesting argument about Hamas getting it. The problem is, as I said, thank you, Boy Mom. The problem is that hospitals use fuel. Everything uses fuel. And the food and the water and everything else. And yeah, I mean, Hamas would get the food and the water too, but you can't cut off civilians from getting food and water. Anyway, it's a mess. It's a mess. Having said that, important to note, you don't see Egypt coming in and dropping off a lot of stuff either. And Egypt controls the southern border of Israel, of Gaza. Egypt's cutting off stuff too. So it's not just Israel. Michael Clark on Sky News had an interesting observation today. He said that Israel can't keep its troops waiting forever. Basically, the Israelis have, gotten their troops ready. They've amassed tanks and things at the Gaza border, getting ready to invade, but they're holding off ostensibly because of the hostage negotiations. The U.S. also reportedly asked Israel to hold off in the invasion because of the hostage negotiations and negotiations to try to get the humanitarian aid in. And what Clark was saying, who's very interesting military analyst, thank you, Nicola, that the Israelis can only wait a week or two more. You can't sit there with all your troops ready to invade. It just doesn't work. First of all, the troops start to basically psychologically, if they're just sitting there waiting, they start to worry. They start to think about it just psychologically, it screws them up. They just can't do it. So he thinks Israel's got another week or two before they pretty much have to either invade or to bring the troops and the tanks back home. Just interesting observation on that front for timing. There was a deal that fell through to get 59 dual citizen hostages released last night. It was the Red Cross and Qatar, the country of Qatar, that were negotiating it. Both Qatar and the Red Cross thought they had the deal, and it fell through. Nobody knows why. Apparently, they're still trying to work it through, but nobody knows why. But the deal fell through. UN Security Council. So there's a new resolution that I believe the U.S. is behind now that will no longer call for a Security Council resolution. Let me say first, I couldn't give two Fs about the United Nations Security Council, to be honest. Thank you, Adventures. Very generous of you, by the way. I appreciate that. I mean, who cares? I don't mean who cares about the substance, but I mean the United Nations Security Council is going to pass a resolution that doesn't do anything. Ooh, how exciting. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. It's just words. It's just words. But nonetheless, the U.S., thank you, Kronos, had opposed an earlier resolution that would have called for a ceasefire. This new one doesn't call for a ceasefire. I believe it calls for a humanitarian pause, which means like a temporary pause or something to get the humanitarian aid in, something like that. But it would also condemn Hamas, demand the release of the hostages, affirm Israel's right to self-defense, underline the protection of civilians, and call for humanitarian access to the civilians. And again, the humanitarian pause. I mean, great if they can agree to it. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's like the U.S. Congress passing a resolution for National Ice Cream Day. I don't get why it matters, but whatever. I mean, good for them if they can all agree to some stupid statement that doesn't mean anything. But you know what I mean? I just get annoyed with stuff like that from the UN. It's just like, come on, guys. France. So President Macron of France had an odd statement today about Israel, Gaza, etc. And he proposed an international coalition. Well, actually, what did he? Okay, yes, he proposed that an existing international coalition that is already taking on ISIS, right, Islamic State, Daesh, depending where you're from, be updated to include Hamas as well. That basically this international coalition go after Hamas as well. It's not really clear that he talked to the allies about it, like the U.S. or anybody else. It's not really clear to me what the point was of this. I mean, it's interesting. My guess is, here's the thing. My guess is, and what Macron might be doing, which isn't a terrible idea. It isn't a terrible idea, though. Listen to this. That, it's about time everybody stopped treating Hamas as, no, not even stop treating. We need to get rid of Hamas, right? I mean, if we're going to sit here and say that Hamas doesn't represent the Palestinians, the Palestinians voted for Hamas. That's how they got into power, 17 years ago or so. And Thank you, Ava. And then once Hamas got into power, they just kept power. No more elections, nothing. But polls still show Palestinians 45, 50% support for Hamas, but whatever. But if we're going to sit here and say the Hamas is a terrorist group, which it is, and it doesn't represent the Palestinians, then there ought to be an international coalition to get rid of them. We shouldn't just sit here and leave these people in charge. Fine. Israel and Egypt both have been blockading Gaza since 2007 or so because they don't want a country run by a literal terrorist organization to have access to their countries. But shouldn't we all be gathered together to get rid of Hamas, to free the Palestinians, give them once again a democratic government? I mean, I'm thinking that may be where Macron is going with this, to at least get the conversation going on, Arab states too, right? If you're so worried about the Palestinians, help them get their democracy back. Because again, they were kind of crazy electing a terrorist group, whatever, but they're not having any more elections. It's just an interesting idea. If you believe in freedom for the Palestinians, but all depends if you believe in it. That's kind of it. There isn't much news today, guys. It's the same story. Thank you, Ava. Both sides are lobbing lots of rockets and missiles at each other, and nothing's changed. We're just kind of waiting to see if there's going to be any more, if Israel's going to invade, waiting to see if any more hostages are going to be released, and waiting to see actually what happens with, thank you, Darian. What happens with the, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the larger hostage negotiation, the 59 hostages they were going to try to get released. So we'll see. Let me do a quick pitch on my my membership stuff, and then we're going to go to Ukraine because there isn't much Israel news today, or Israel and Gaza news. Ukraine. So just a quick note on this. So I do this for free. I've been doing it for free since the war broke out in Ukraine, the Ukrainian war, with Russia invading Ukraine back in, I think I started this early March of 2022, so a year and 10 months ago or so. And I do this full time. I do it for free. Thank you, Martin. And the way I'm able to do this isn't because I'm wealthy, because I'm not. Thank you, Lizard Person. It's with your guys' gifts. Your guys' gifts have made it. Thank you, Sean. Have made it so that basically the gifts and the memberships, some auctions I do on Discord, all of it related to these topics, to doing the news. Thank you. Who's that? Martin. And who's that? Lizard Person. Thank you, Lizard, for the hedgehog. All of your guys' gifts make it so I can pay my bills. And by being able to pay my bills, I can afford to do this. So if you like my show, if you don't worry about it. But if you like the show and you can help me out, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Kronos. If you can, why don't you get a paid job? Because I do this. That's the whole point. If I got a paid job, which I've had lots of them, you can go check out my LinkedIn. I wouldn't be doing this. And I would rather be doing this because I think I can make a difference. So if you agree with me, thank you, Martin. If you agree that I'm making a difference, thank you, Bruce. And you like my reporting, please consider supporting me. Certainly that could be the gifts on TikTok. Those are very welcome and actually help a lot. That could be on YouTube, on Twitch, you can do it on Ko-fi. Thank you, Aflac Duck. Who is that? Johnny. You can do contributions via Ko-fi for once a month on that. You could do once a month contributions on TikTok. Sign up as a TikTok subscriber. You could be a YouTube subscriber and have the little green name next to you, which shows that you're one of the folks subscribing monthly. Lots of different ways. You could even do Patreon. Patreon won't let me link to all the other benefits, but you could do Patreon too. Thank you, Joe. If you guys want to help out, you could go to my TikTok, go to my profile on TikTok, look at the Linktree link, click it. You'll see a fundraiser we're doing, but you'll see a lot of other stuff too. My Venmo, my PayPal, my Cash App, my Patreon, all that stuff is linked. If you want to help out, feel free. Same thing for you guys. Thank you, Alex and Forklift. But you can also help with you guys know how you can help. You can help with the super chats and everything else. Thank you, Johnny. B. Smith has a super chat question. Speaking of which, if Israel does commit a war crime, will the U.S. not support Israel anymore? Well, the problem is Israel may have already committed a war crime. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. It's going to depend on what Israel does. It's going to depend what Israel does. And what I mean by that is, Israel says, let's go blow up a school full of kids. Yay. And they do it. Then the U.S. is going to have a real problem with them. But I don't buy that they're committing war crimes right now. No. You've got to give an example and you've got to prove it. Because one thing, because people on TikTok, but it's the usuals. One thing that folks don't understand with the law is that, and with war either, just because you kill civilians doesn't make it a crime. Intending to target civilians, that's a crime. Trying to kill civilians, that, or I should say a war crime, that's a war crime. Killing civilians when you didn't intend to, it's not. It's just not. Now, the collective punishment aspect, that's different. Morrow's saying the collective punishment. That's an interesting argument if you want to talk about Israel cutting off the food and water and everything else. Now, Israel's going to say that, Malathos, I'm going to mention that meant Israel's going to say they're not trying to punish the Palestinians. They're trying to stop food and water and medicine and fuel from going to Hamas, which is the terrorist group that's the government of Gaza. So then you get into the legal discussion of, okay, are they right? I mean, or it's all I'm saying is you get into an interesting legal discussion there. Personally, I would agree that I think Israel's on thin ice when it comes to cutting off food and water and everything going to an entire region. I think they're on real thin ice legally. Nonetheless, they're going to have to do a lot worse than that for the U.S. to cut them off. A lot worse. So Israel and the U.S., Israel is the U.S.'s top ally. They are. So anyway, I was going to say, let me start Ukraine here. So Ukraine, it's day 608 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. I wanted to mention we're still doing our fundraiser. We still need another $381 for our fundraiser. We are raising money for a first-person view FPV drone facility for training Ukrainian troops and Ukrainian civilians in how to basically fight the Russians. Vlad knows the folks there. They would like our help getting a couple different drones, 2 different drones, some motors, because they make their own drones, some control panels, for the drones, or controllers, whatever you call them. You can tell I don't play with I play computer games. I don't play the Xbox stuff. And they only need $1,971. We've already raised $1,590. So we need about 381 left. If you guys can help out, I would appreciate it. You can donate to my friend Vlad directly. You can go on TikTok, go to the Linktree link in my profile, click it, and the first thing that comes up is Vlad's PayPal info. You guys, I will put it on the screen right now, but guys, we only need $381 more. There you go. 100% of any donation you guys give will go to the Ukrainians. I'm not taking a dime. This money actually is going directly via my friend Vlad in Ukraine anyway. I'm not taking a dime. Jump right in, please, if you can. But I'd like you to help if you can. It's only $381. Vlad's PayPal link is in my bio. Exactly. Click the Linktree link in my bio, and the very first thing that comes up will give you Vlad's PayPal link. And then you just go to your PayPal, enter Vlad's info, and give it to him if you can. Thank you, Kronos. But we only need $381. I'm going to keep beating you up until we get the $381, just so you know. But I appreciate it if you can help. All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Let's keep going. Russia has decreased the number of ground attacks against Avdiivka in the last day or two, but they've intensified the airstrikes, dropping around 40 bombs at or near the town in just 2 nights. Avdiivka, you may recall, is a Ukrainian town right northwest of Donetsk. Donetsk, another Ukrainian town occupied by the Russians. The Russians are trying to take Avdiivka, which is northwest of here. They've poured a ton of troops, a ton of weapons in, tanks and everything, and they're not doing very well. Which is good. And the Russians have actually done kind of a pause, at least with their troops and everything else. But they are still, now they're trying to bomb, basically, which honestly does mean they're having a problem because they're trying to kind of pull out their troops now and just bomb the hell out of it because they're finding using the troops, they're not advancing. So it's good, not huge news, but it's still good. Sweden. So little bit of an update on Sweden, not that much, a little bit of an update. Who is this? Kronos. Thank you, Kronos, for the Frankfurter. I've got like a bunch of different things here. Sweden. Okay, I think I got this via Sky News, I think. Turkey's parliament is now expected to schedule a date to start debating Sweden's membership bid in the Foreign Relations Committee. Which will eventually decide whether to dispatch the accession protocol to the floor for a final vote. So basically, as I've mentioned before, in order to become a new member of NATO, all the previous members of NATO have to vote in favor of it. And it goes to the legislature of each NATO member, the parliament, the Congress, and each Congress has to ratify it, okay? The protocol in other words, it's like amending a treaty. We have a treaty where all 31 NATO countries agree to defend each other. To add somebody else, thank you, LWD, each country has to vote to amend the treaty because they're going to be responsible for defending the new member. So if they don't agree, the new member doesn't come. So Turkey and Hungary are the two countries that have not yet voted on Sweden joining. Erdogan in Turkey just the other day finally submitted the documents to his legislature. And the latest is it sounds like it works a lot like ours in America and maybe your guys in Europe or abroad too. It goes first to a committee, and then the committee passes it, and then it goes to the entire body. And then the entire legislature votes on it. That's where it is. Now, what I was reading was, how quickly does it go through that legislature? That's up to Erdogan, the president. He can push it. He cannot push it, right? So we don't know how quickly this is going to go. Jens Stoltenberg, who's the supreme commander of NATO, basically kind of the civilian head of NATO, he said that he's hoping that Sweden could become a member at the latest by NATO's foreign minister meeting that's happening at the end of November 28th or 29th. Let's see. I still think in the end that, thank you, Paul Brown, that Erdogan's going to play games. I really do. Thank you, Alex. He's all along been trying to negotiate, getting more and more and more. And I've told you guys this before. When he finally agreed a couple of months ago and said, okay, I'll support Sweden joining. A day or two later, he said, oh, but I can't speak for my parliament. Thank you, Danan. He said, my parliament isn't there yet. Thank you, Mustard. They're not there yet. They don't agree yet on Sweden joining, and Sweden's going to need to convince them. To me, that was Erdogan playing games again, giving with one hand, taking with the other. Let's see. And then finally, Hungary. What will Hungary do? Hungary is run by a guy named Orban, prime minister, elected, but he's a Putin puppet, basically. Hates Ukraine, loves Putin, very pro-Russia, very aligns with Russia, criticizes NATO, criticizes the EU, even though he's a member of both. And Putin does not want him to agree to do this. His government had earlier said if Turkey had agreed to let Sweden in, Hungary would not remain as the final sort of sticking point. In other words, if Turkey agreed, they would agree. Let's see. Anyway, that's what's up. So there's really no news, and I'm worried this is going to take a while. Again, let's see what happens. Elon. Oh, yes. Okay. Quick sip of iced tea. Elon Musk is causing trouble again with Ukraine. What a surprise. Hang on. So Elon does one of those online Twitter spaces. It's some kind of like online chat you can do on Twitter where you beam your voice basically, and everybody else can sort of, watch and type and whatever. And Elon does it with Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek is that guy running for president as a Republican here in the States, speaks very well, kind of a little bit of a shyster. I'm going to use my Yiddish I think it's a Yiddish word. He comes across as a bit of a, I don't know, whatever. Some people like him. But he's super MAGA. He's basically trying to get the Trump vote by being as MAGA as Trump and very anti-Ukraine. He thinks we should be best friends with Putin and we should just, give Ukraine away to the Russians. Well, today, Elon started first, again, Ukraine came up, and Elon started first explaining his concern that the U.S. is just sleepwalking into World War III because, only Elon Musk understands the geopolitics of Ukraine. The rest of the world really doesn't. But Elon sees it's World War III coming, right? Whatever. That was his first comment. Then Vivek jumps in and says, well, I'm paraphrasing here, we really ought to just end the war, give Ukraine, give the occupied lands in Ukraine to Russia. They've got, 17% of Ukraine. Just to remind you guys, the territory that Russia controls is all of this. So Crimea, this up to the river, kind of from here south, and this. So all of this, because this is Russia over here. And Vivek says, just give it away to Russia, right? Make peace with Russia, give it away. And Elon responds, I don't know if I have Elon's exact quotes. Elon responds and says that, yeah, that's a good idea. We should just do it based on the current battle lines. What Russia holds, Russia gets, and what Russia doesn't hold, Russia doesn't get. He's such an idiot. Elon is okay. Couple things. Elon has issues. The guy isn't all there. He's really not. Just yesterday, the day before, he proposed to rename Wikipedia. Everybody knows Wikipedia, right? Where you go online, it's like the online dictionary, not dictionary, online encyclopedia. Elon offered them $1 billion with a B if they would rename themselves Dickopedia for a year. You know, Dick. Haha, because it's funny, isn't it? And he'd give them $1 billion if they do it. He's not okay. I mean, he's not an okay man. I'm not making it up. Feel free to Google it. You know, Putin, we know Putin talked to him. At least that was the report. We know the Russians scared the hell out of him. The report was that Putin had threatened Elon's satellites, basically had made some kind of an implication. Well, you know, if the satellites are going to be helping Ukraine, then they're fair game. Elon freaked out. Russia also contains a lot of minerals that, and frankly, Ukraine does too. You guys informed me on that. Eastern Ukraine contains minerals that Elon could use for his electric vehicles. I forgot. It wasn't lithium. It was the number two. Was it copper? You guys said, or cobalt? What was the number two mineral that's really important for electric batteries? But apparently, you guys were saying that it's in Eastern Ukraine, which I did not realize. The mineral. No, it's not carbon. Cobalt. Cobalt. Okay, it's cobalt then. And lithium is the number one. Yeah, lithium's the number one. So, you know, Elon, A, B. I mean, he's looking after number one here is what I think. But it drives me crazy when he weighs in because it's just so, you know, he's so gross. I don't know. Anyway, Sky News. Another Russian oil executive is dead. Anybody who's got that on their bingo cards. Thank you, Shane. So then Ernie as well for the gift. Oh, Happy Beach. Whoa. Thank you, Happy Beach. Beautiful. And I mean, very generous of you. I know. I don't know all the gifts, but I can recognize some, but also very cool. I'd not seen that one before. Thank you for that. Baby dragon, Callum. It's a dragon, although it could be a baby dino too. I'm with you. I would call it a dino personally, but yep. So yes, another Russian oil executive is dead. Surprise. Vladimir Nekrasov. That's kind of funny. Only because in Greek, nekra, from like dead, but oh well, the origins of the word. Nekrasov, chairman of Russia's Lukoil, has died suddenly at the age of 66. Thank you, Jamie, for the hat. His company said he suffered acute heart failure. I love the next line of the story was, and the company refused to give any more information. Yeah, I'll bet they did. Listen to this. The previous head of Lukoil's board, Ravil Maganov, died in September 2022 after falling from a hospital window in Moscow. He's one of the people that fell out the window. Remember all the Russian business people that kept falling out windows because they'd criticized Putin in the war? Lukoil, again, one of their other senior guys, right? He falls out a window. Two sources familiar. Lukoil, rather unusually, took a public stand against Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, with its board of directors expressing concern over the tragic events in Ukraine in a March 2022 statement. The statement remains on the company's website. I'm not happy about it. I just think it's so peak Russia is what it is. You have to just kind of roll with the punches with these people. They're so predictably out there. I mean, he's throwing people out windows. I mean, it's like, it's like The Sopranos with oil. I mean, it's just, anyway. Putin's health. Okay, so you're all asking about Putin's health. So some stories got shared on, I was right, but I was totally right. It was Telegram, right? When I looked at this, I did. Yes, it was a Telegram. I so called it. So yesterday during the show, people were saying, oh my God, there's stories that Putin is dying or having a heart attack or blah, blah, blah. And I said, it's probably like some newspaper quoting some Russian Telegram channel. And you guys said, yes, that's exactly what it was. The Kremlin came out today, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, and said, denied it all. Putin's fine. said it's an absurd hoax that Putin uses a body double. He's totally fine. The General SVR Telegram channel, which regularly alleges Putin is terminally ill with cancer, claimed he suffered cardiac arrest on Sunday evening. This was picked up by some Western media outlets. But Peskov says everything is fine with him. This is absolutely another fake theory. Big surprise. Finally, Ukraine's European Union membership. I do not claim to be an expert in how the European Union works, but there is a big decision coming in November and December. An assessment will be done of Ukraine's progress and its membership bid. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, actually, NATO works the same way. When you want to become a member of the EU, they sort of initially tell you, okay, you got to work. And I think in Ukraine's case, there's like 8 or 9 different issues. You got to work on these 8 or 9 different issues. One of them is corruption. One of them is, I don't know what, right? And the sort of evaluation of that comes early November, like a roadmap. Okay, thanks, Red Shot, a roadmap. And once they do the report in November, and supposedly the talk is that the report is going to be favorable, which is good. The EU will make a decision whether to start accession talks with Ukraine. I believe that decision will be taken in December, I read, I think, based on this report. So in other words, it's possible come December, not that Ukraine will join the European Union, but come December, the European Union says, yes, you did what you were supposed to do. We are happy to now begin the official discussion of you joining. The talks, very long talks about the legal changes and everything else. Anyway, it's a nice step in the right direction, so let's see what happens. Excuse me. Final point, and then we'll do questions on Israel and Ukraine. Our auctions end tomorrow. Every week I do really cool auctions of cool stuff from Ukraine. And 50% of the auction proceeds I send back to Ukraine. We use it for humanitarian, but also we've been using it to help the drone fights and everything else in Ukraine, to help buy drones and supplies for the drones and everything else, but also a lot of humanitarian aid. And 50% of the money from our cool auctions goes to support me, because I do this full time. As I said, it's my full-time job. And in order to make money to pay my bills, I ask you guys for contributions, gifts, and we also use the auction money as well. Just to show you a couple of the auction items we've got coming tomorrow. Just sort of the same stuff I've been showing. We got about 10 or 11 items actually, but very cool. Oh, I forgot actually. Wait, we've got very cool, Ukrainian designed decorative wall hanging, like a little food cutting board. We've got, actually, I totally forgot to put it up. I've got my Zelensky shirt. I don't have it pulled out. Thank you for the Kronos and Adrian. The Zelensky shirt. We had found a while ago the shirts that Zelensky wears in the summer. And they're these really cool military shirts that have like a zip pocket, and they've got the Velcro so you can put your patches on there. And I bought a bunch of them. And because one of you asked me and reminded me, I've got one of those up too. So you can go check it out. It's there. I put it up. We've also got some really cool bracelets from Ukraine that Vlad's daughter grabbed. It's kind of a pretty little pink one. It shows the Ukrainian map in there, but very pretty. Mustard's been after this. Patron. We've got, very nice Ukrainian military patch. These are the ones with the Velcro on the back. This is actually the most popular Ukrainian military patch because it's the flag of Ukraine. So these are very cool from Ukraine. And finally, there's 11 things. I won't go through all 11. But the favorite this week clearly is our angel with the Ukrainian trizub, which is the trident, but made from a shell casing from a a BMP-3, whatever the hell. Kellen, were you the one yesterday? No, weren't you the one that told me what to call this yesterday? I screwed it up yesterday too. In any case, it's a shell from a Russian armored personnel carrier. And from Bakhmut, actually, which I forgot, the big battles that were going on in Bakhmut, this is from there. And the BMP and the Ukrainians took it and basically it's called trench art, when you create art with all the stuff, from the war, 30 millimeter shell. And they designed it as an angel, which I think is just really cool, with the trident of Ukraine. And what people have said, which is really neat, you could use it as a candle holder, which would be really cool too. So anyway, very neat. This has been very popular. I like these a lot. I'm still considering keeping one for myself. But all the auctions end tomorrow. Go check it out. They end throughout the day. You can either hover or click on the auction item where it says end time or something like that. If you hover or click on that, like right now it says 1 day, but if you hover or click, it'll tell you exactly in your time zone when the auction ends. So go check it out tomorrow, guys. Thank you. All right, let's talk. So what do you got for questions or what? And please do keep the gifts coming. Thank you, lizard man or gal, whoever you are, lizard person. What else was this? I'm not sure. Oh, really? Oh, wow. Mark V says the Israeli family I showed the other week with the 2 kids. I believe you're talking about that family where one of the very first days of the hostage taking by Hamas, they showed the Israeli man and the Israeli woman, both pretty young, and their 2 young kids. The young boy must have been around 6. The teenage girl was about 12 or 13, and Hamas had killed the sister. Yeah, exactly. The 18-year-old sister was killed, and they were kidnapped at this point. Thank you, Maukab. They were kidnapped at this point, and Hamas was filming these Israeli family in captivity while, my guess is maybe an Israeli bombing raid was going on or something outside. But the family, the kids are talking about the sister. Is she really gone? The little boy, I mean, they've already said she's dead. She's gone. And the little boy is saying, but are you sure she can't come back? And the mother's like, no, she isn't coming back. I mean, horrible. Well, according to this, the 2 kids are safe. The dad was taking hostage, but the mom and the 2 kids are safe. Now, when did that happen, though? Did that just happen? Because I didn't hear of any other hostages coming out. It's great, but I had not heard about that. That's good. There are a ton of galaxies. Yes, there are. There's a ton of galaxies and a ton of solar systems in those galaxies. 700 trillion is a bit much, but nonetheless, there's a lot. Yes, there are a lot. Do you see here? Okay, this is where things get interesting. Do you think Ukraine should provide Russia with food, water, and electricity? It's a damn good question. See, this is the problem, not the problem. That is an interesting question because, and here's the thing. I did a video today on TikTok, and of course it pissed off a lot of people because, it wouldn't be me if it didn't piss off people. But I think it's important to, I'm very much a realist, I guess you would say, when it comes to foreign policy, politics overall. I'm not a big fan of people who are like, we can't do it, but let's just try anyway for fun, even though we know it's not going to work. And I'm like, well, what's the point of that? You know what I mean? Or what I believe in like we have a realistic proposal of what we're going to do. We have a realistic plan for how it's going to achieve it, whatever. And I had asked people and I said, okay, Mexico. And I mean, for you guys here, but again, it's worth thinking about it. I know it's going to piss some of you off, but you know what? Challenge yourself. Just go with me here. Mexico has an election. They elect ISIS, Daesh, as their government, which is exactly what Hamas happened in thank you, McFadge, which is what actually the Palestinians did in Gaza. Thank you, McFadge. They elected Hamas as the government and then they stayed. But it's Mexico. So Mexico elects ISIS. ISIS decides, they get in power. ISIS decides to invade the U.S. They can't invade the U.S. because we'd kill them if they invaded, right? The U.S. is too big. But we know our border is porous. Our border, right, has issues. We know that. And they're able to cross the border. They get a couple thousand or more people coming across the border. They murder. I had the number here earlier, actually. Let me pull this up. I did the math on this. Israel compared to America with population size here. See if I can actually pull it up. Let's see. Otherwise, I can run the numbers again with my Alexa. I may have to run the numbers again. But basically, you run the numbers and you've got 1,400 dead times 33. U.S. is 33 times bigger than Israel. So 1,400 times 33. Alexa, what's 1,400 times 33? Oh, that's what I said. There you go. 6,000. Sorry. There you go. 46,000. Right. 46,000 dead and 6,000 hostages because there's 222 hostages, again, worth 33 times bigger. So 6,000 American hostages, 46,000 American dead from the Mexicans electing a terrorist government, ISIS's government. What do we do as Americans? Right? obviously we'd bomb the hell out of Mexico. I mean, we'd bomb the hell out of Mexico. Nobody would be calling for a ceasefire 2 weeks in. They're still holding 6,000 Americans. Nobody, I mean, not nobody. A couple people would be calling for a ceasefire, but generally speaking, politically, forget it. Forget it. It wouldn't even be part of the conversation. Wouldn't even be part of the conversation. We would blow the crap out of Mexico. And we would care this much about civilian casualties. I mean, we'd care, but it would not be, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. There's no way that there's no way we'd say, well, you know, a lot of Mexican civilians are going to die. We're not going to respond to this terrorist attack. There's no way. You know, and I mean, I'm trying to think what was your question? Oh, you know, what Amir said. Do you think Ukraine should provide Russia with food, water, and electricity? I think it gets, well, I'm going to compare it because it makes you uncomfortable, Nako. You've got to learn, right? You know, you guys have got to learn, some of you, that things that make you uncomfortable, sometimes it's because in your head you're going, yeah, I wouldn't like that, but I don't want to compare it to Israel because I don't like it when Israel does it. If we're going to talk as sort of realists here, we've got to think, okay, A, is what Israel is doing crazy? And B, if we want them to stop, how do we get them to stop if what they're doing is exactly what we would do? And I think what they're doing is exactly what we would do. So how do you get them to stop? You got to give them an alternative. You've got to give them some alternative, but there's no alternative. And when it comes down to it, if we were providing food, water, and electricity to Mexico and they bombed us, pretty sure we'd stop giving them food, water, and electricity. Yes. Now, would that be a war crime? Probably. I mean, it probably would be, but I suspect we'd cut it off anyway. My point here is that I think too many people, and honestly, Palestinians, I mean, to the Palestinians as well, too many people look at this and their answer is, oh, well, Israel's evil. That's why they do this. They're evil, right? They're whatever Zionists or whatever word you like to use. So of course they're just bad people. And some other people think the other. Palestinians, they're Arabs, which, you know, they're all bad people, underdeveloped, or whatever stereotype you want to use, right? And as I said, I tend to be very in the middle on this, in the sense that I think both sides have been screwed. The Israelis, the Jews worldwide, I would say, Jews and the Palestinians, but also both sides to some degree have unclean hands. I think Israel has done a lot of bad things over the years, especially with Netanyahu, especially with the settlements, and the Palestinians, forget it. They decided to have a terrorist movement, and they decided to invade Israel 3 times with their friends, the Arabs. And you know what? They lost 3 times. Well, they lost a couple times. And every time they lost land. And now they're complaining about losing. I mean, you can get into this whole back and forth and back and forth and back and forth of who's to blame. And I just think Amir asked an interesting question, because Amir, it would be wrong for us to cut off food and water and electricity to Mexico. Would we do it if Mexico did that to us? Yes, we would. We would. And that's the conundrum here. And then you get into the issue of saying, well, okay, just because we would, does that mean we should? The problem is, politically, we wouldn't have a choice. Politically, there's no way that Americans would continue to provide any of that stuff to Mexico if Mexico attacked us. And that's the problem. I'm actually, Daniela, so you're justifying it. Daniela, what I'm doing is telling you, in the real world that we live in, you can't live in fantasy land if you care about this issue. You can't get mad at a country for doing what you would do. You've got to sit there and say, okay, if they're doing what I would do and what my country would do and what every country in the world would do in response, even though they pretend they wouldn't, but if it was them, they would, then maybe we've got to think outside the box of a better way to convince Israel and the Palestinians of how they can jump off this train that keeps circling around with them killing each other. And by the way, the Arabs not helping, and the terrorist groups going like this, having a field day, just because the terrorist groups keep stirring the pot, obviously. But it's, yeah, anyway. So, Amir, I don't disagree with you, but it doesn't mean I think it's a good thing. And again, it's probably a war crime, which is not a good thing. But politically, I don't know how you get off of doing it. You know, no, this is my problem. Well, I mean, here's the problem. I mean, Joseph says, by your logic, Russia's not doing anything wrong. The problem is, it depends. It depends. It depends whether the person has a justification. Russia doesn't have any justification for doing war crimes against Ukraine. Ukraine wasn't threatening Russia. Ukraine didn't just kill thousands of Russians. Russia made it up. Russia's been making it up for 8 years. Russia created a fake civil war in Ukraine. Putin already admitted he wants. I'm saying the point here is the wars are different, but that's not really my point. My point is part of the justification of whether what the person is doing is right or wrong is why they're doing it, right? And if why they're doing it is because they just got the crap blown out of them with 1,400 of their citizens murdered and 220 of them kidnapped, they've got a better justification for what they're doing than somebody like Putin, who simply is, what's the word? Not avarice. What's the word? He's coveting his neighbor's wife. Putin just wants Ukraine. He wants it. That's not a good justification. I think this stuff is complicated. I think it's gray, and I don't think you can simply look at the rules and say, well, I think it's complicated. In any case, chance of Israel losing in the war? I don't think there's any chance of Israel losing, because if Israel loses, it's got nuclear weapons. Israel isn't losing this war. It's got nuclear weapons. So that's not happening. And the U.S. isn't going to let Israel lose the war. There is a 0% chance the U.S. would let Israel lose the war. Everyone's united on that. I mean, Republicans are united on it, and Democrats, still majority of Democrats support Ukraine. Israel, by far. So, but your question, to make your question more nuanced, Hezbollah invades from the north, from Lebanon. Iran decides to just enter the war, right, and start lobbing its own missiles or whatever at Israel. Syria decides to get involved. Egypt and Jordan won't, but Syria could. And all of a sudden, you've got a much bigger problem going on in there. And the U.S. then has to get involved with troops. And the U.S. has to get involved with lots of bombing raids. And things just start to get messier. The war could go on for a long time is the problem. They were also saying if Israel invades Gaza, no one thinks Israel's going to have an easy time invading Gaza. Hey, Mevili, and that it could go on for 10 years if they invade Gaza. And if they're able to take out Hamas, who then runs Gaza? I mean, nobody wants Hamas running Gaza, but who runs it then? It's a mess. It's a mess, So anyway, interesting question you had there, Amir. You got us all going. What else, guys? What else? So I'm trying to look here for questions or something. Oop. Thank you, Brock. Well, Malayathos says Russia's got their hands in Hamas too. Russia certainly has their hands in Iran, and Iran has its hands in Hamas. Money and weapons. Russia will probably be friendly with them. I wouldn't be surprised, but that's not necessarily true. You never know who's sort of killed Russians too. I don't remember what sort of Putin's relationship is necessarily with Hamas, but he's certainly good with, Russians tend to support the Palestinians, or they have supported the Palestinians over the years. And they certainly support Iran, which supports the which supports the terrorists actually, so yeah. Anyway, what else? So I'm trying to see here. Oh, you're Kronos. Oh, that's funny. Okay. That's who you are. Funny. Amir. That's funny. Oh, it was a good question. I'm like, he asked good questions. What else we got? My take on what's happening in the Avdiivka. I never pronounced Avdiivka. There we go. Area. So this is the area that we were talking about that's over here by Donetsk. I mean, basically, kind of like the rest of the battle, the Russians threw a lot in there, didn't do very well. Now they're kind of pulling back, and not much has happened. And in a couple weeks, max, Ukraine's getting into the wet season, and that's it, right? I mean, that's it. Terry, didn't you reach out to me on TikTok? I thought, aren't you that person, or are you somebody else? Sorry, on YouTube there. What else we got, guys? We need to replenish ammo for Ukraine. Well, we're trying to replenish ammo for ourselves too. I mean, basically the US and the Europeans, thank you, Kronos. Thank you, Nathan. the U.S. and the Europeans kind of after the Cold War cut back, and honestly, we said there was a peace dividend, and we cut back a lot, and maybe we shouldn't have cut back. So thank you, Alexander. Well, Alina, because the IDF was doing a really bad job. It took the IDF a long time to help save people. She was asking why it took the IDF so long to go save the people at the music concert. It also took them forever to get to the people in some of the kibbutzes too that were being overrun. Thank you, TLC. So, who knows? But they need to get, it's not an inside job. I don't believe it's an inside job. I'm not a big believer in conspiracy theories unless you got some proof. I generally think, I'm with Spock and Occam. Generally although Spock's may not have been, Spock's was the opposite. Spock's was when you get rid of the obvious or whatever, then the less obvious is possible. That's a little different. But I just think, generally speaking, these guys pulled something off. The Israelis weren't prepared, and Israel just really wasn't. I mean, the fact that they could get into Israeli military bases is insane, is absolutely insane. Thank you, Joe. I don't know how the hell they pulled that one off. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Stoney, you got one more chance to prove you're not a troll, but that sentence made no sense that you wrote. So just so you know, if you are a troll, you're not a good one because that wasn't English. Anyway, what else we got? China bullying other boats. I haven't seen it, but we know they do. China's been bullying a lot of the boats and things in their region. They're trying to sort of claim more land and other stuff in Asia. I do know about that. Samantha, super chat. Thoughts on American bases being targeted? That's been happening over the last few days or several days. I've read it's been in the teens during last week, and it's come out servicemen were injured. What's your take? It's been in the teens. Where? In Ukraine or in Iraq? It's been in the teens in Iraq and Syria. And U.S. servicemen were injured. We didn't hear that, but it's possible. It's been that cold in Syria? Unless it's in the mountains somewhere or something. Oh, Celsius. Maybe that's it. Okay, maybe. Except she's writing. Oh, God. Alexa, quiet. I hate when she hears you and responds, and it kind of freaks you out. It's like this voice from the other side of the room. In any case, yeah, I mean, it's hard to respond to maybe U.S. servicemen got killed and we didn't know about it. I would say that I think absolutely positively Iran is going to try to use its surrogates to kill Americans. Yes. To kill American service members. Yes. They're going to go after the ships. They're going to go after the military bases. That's why we're moving in a lot of the stuff to protect the ships and the bases, from air attack and everything else, because they'll absolutely try. But I'm just not sure. Yeah, I didn't hear about it. I didn't even read about it though when I was checking the news either. No, I'm not sure what to say though. I mean, what do you say about it? I'm not surprised. We know Iran's going to try to do it. I guess the question becomes, if they do it, will we hold Iran responsible? And what does that mean? Would we bomb Iran? What would we do? It's if they keep doing it, we're going to do something. It's not been in anywhere that I've been reading the news today. Yeah. I mean, CNN didn't have it. Sky News didn't have it. In general, online, I was reading and didn't see it. Thoughts on the House Speaker race? It's a mess. Thank you, Lori, for the black cat. I don't know how Republicans are going to get a speaker unless they pick Donald Trump. I don't know how they're going to get a speaker. Makes no sense. I mean, the problem is, for those of you abroad, it's like, thank you, Dr. Prince. It's as if we almost have a parliamentary system, but no ability to call an election. Thank you, Dr. Prince. Actually, for all the Americans out there, it's interesting. How you hear about how like the Brits are calling an election and we never quite know what that means or how it happens. And like, it's like out of nowhere, they're supposed to have the election in 2 years, but out of nowhere, they've called the election next week. And we're like, what? And in a way, what's happening in the House with the speaker's race is kind of about the same thing, where basically, in this case, the Republicans don't have enough of a majority. They've only got a majority of 4 seats, and it's making it impossible for them to do any work. It's making it impossible for them to even pick a new speaker. So one solution to that, in a British or a parliamentary system would be call a new election and see if we can jigger the numbers better. So if you're Republican, you can get a larger majority, or if you're Democrats, you take the majority. But we don't have a system like that. There's no way to call a new election. So the new election isn't until November of 2024. Thank you, Dr. Prince, for the hat. There's no new election. So there's no way to solve this problem other than Republicans getting their act together. But they're all so pissed at each other, the MAGA crowd and the more conservatives, and now the moderate wing or whatever this Emmer guy was. So there's no way. Constitutionally, there's no such thing. Our elections are every 2 years for the House and every 6 years for the Senate and every 4 years for the presidency. That's it. Thank you, Kane. There's literally there's no mechanism. Like, these guys were elected for 2 years. You can't call a new election and take away it just doesn't, it's just not how it works. Yeah. But that's the problem, because Republicans don't have enough. All right, guys, from here on out, anybody else who brings up this handshake spam is getting banned by the mods because somebody's organizing it and it's obnoxious. I don't know what point you're trying to prove, but you're not proving it. My suspicion is, I wonder if this is like the weird thing about how, the terrorists were really nice because the old ladies they kidnapped, they gave tea. And I literally saw somebody do that. Somebody commented on TikTok to me. They're like, they did give the old ladies tea. And I was like, well, that was really sweet of them. They blew the brains out of their neighbors, took their husbands hostage, punched them, 79 and 86-year-old women. One woman was thrown on the back of a motorbike with, here's the motorbike. They threw her on the bike like this, head one way, legs the other, and people punched her as they drove by, 86 years old, and they're still holding the husbands hostage. But people want us to be, they're such nice terrorists because they gave their hostages tea. Well, that's sweet. So yeah, anybody bringing the handshake up, you are going to get blocked immediately, because I didn't know what it was, but clearly it's some BS. It's some troll thing. What do we got? Okay, that's just crazy. You're going. Goodbye. Angel got his wings on Facebook. That's always lovely when that happens. What else we got? Well, I mean, they could, Jay. Jay says, why don't this is talking about the House race again. Why don't Democrats work with the Republicans to get a moderate Republican? Part of the problem is Democrats have offered, Republicans haven't wanted to talk to them, because it's the kiss of death in the Republican Party to say, you're willing to work with the Democrats. They don't want that. It would really be the kiss of death to get a Democratic speaker. But for the Democrats, they have said they're willing to talk, but they want something. Obviously, the Democrats aren't going to vote for a Republican speaker unless the Republicans give them something. And I don't think the Republican Party's there yet. The question is, can they become there? That would be interesting, but they're not, I mean, Len, I'm not going to block you for having an opinion on religions. So, I mean, that's fine. You don't like religion, that's fine. It's fine with me. I mean, I don't care. People get blocked for being trolls. What else? What else, guys? Anything else? Beep, 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 beep. UN meeting. I mean, I said earlier, I don't really care about the United Nations. I think the United Nations is kind of useless. Usually they're useless. And, I do the recap once at the very end when there's nothing else people don't have any more questions or anything else. But, the UN's useless. I don't really care that they're going to pass some resolution that it's a statement of principle. Drinking water. Only drinking water, Nayeli. Sorry. Nothing fun. So, are the Chinese sending ships? Somebody said the Chinese were sending an aircraft carrier or something, but I mean, or maybe it's their aircraft carrier. But well, we can get into a long discussion about that. But people want to. Why is Israel basically when people talk about apartheid in Israel, they're kind of talking about why Israel is a Jewish state, really. And honestly, it's kind of obvious why Israel is a Jewish state, because of the history Jews have been through for 3,000 years. You're never going to have have Israel be a sort of a multi-party system, not multi-party, but multi-ethnic society when Jews are getting murdered and they've been murdered for 3,000 years. Never going to happen. So people that like to say apartheid, I think just really don't understand what the, I just think it's too easy. It's just too easy. So, all right, guys, I'm not seeing much else of, other than some crazies, but what else we got? Dogs asking for water. I don't want to run for, I would never want to run for office. Ugh. I like working in politics on the sides and stuff, but oh God, you know? I mean, Adam says, what do you think of all these Hamas supporters in America? Look, there has always been a loud fringe on the left. The people who are like overtly supporting Hamas are a fringe. Honestly, hey, you got to wait. Honestly, even when it comes to Israel, people on the left still support Israel. A lot don't, but overall they do. So, I mean, I guess, I don't know. Some of my Jewish friends aren't real thrilled because they see this as being yet again being knifed by the left in America. And I'm not convinced they're wrong necessarily, but, anyway. Anyway, Wikipedia says China has 2 carriers in service and 1 under construction. I didn't know they had 2. I thought they had 1. There we go. China has 2 aircraft carriers. Yes. I don't think it's going to matter. I didn't see anything about impending doom. All right. Let me do a quick little update, a quick little review of what we talked about, guys, and then we'll call it quits. Boom. House Speakers update. I said Tom Emmer, the latest guy the Republicans were going to pick for Speaker, just dropped out because he wasn't conservative enough, because he doesn't favor gay marriage, but he favored codifying the Supreme Court gay marriage decision so it couldn't get overturned. And we did Discord last night. I'm going to skip it for tonight. We went until 8:00 last night. He voted to certify the 2000 election for Biden, and that was a bridge too far for the Republicans in the House and for Donald Trump. So because he certified that Joe Biden won the election, he can't be the Republican leader. It's like, okay. Michael Clark at Sky News says that Israel can really only wait for another week or 2 before it invades Gaza. Otherwise, it's going to have to remove the troops, because you just can't leave the troops sitting out there for this long. A deal to release 59 dual national hostages went through last night and then died at the last minute. Nobody quite knows why. UN Security Council is discussing a resolution that I believe the Americans are behind that will cause for a humanitarian pause in order to allow aid to get into the Gaza Strip. France is calling for an international coalition against Hamas, which was kind of interesting. With Ukraine, we're still doing our fundraiser. Please help if you can. We're trying to get money to do first-person view, FPV drone training. And the trainers we're working with need 2 drones, a motor, some controllers. Thank you, Kronos. A couple different things. And we need another $381 to meet our goal of helping this one drone facility, which will be doing ongoing training in different locations. That every 2 weeks they have to change locations so the Russians don't find them and blow them up. Crazy stuff. But if you can help out, please do. Thank you, Ragu. You guys, I'll put it up again on YouTube, etc. You can give via Vlad's PayPal. Vlad's PayPal is right there. You guys can give via my friend Vlad in Ukraine's PayPal by going to my profile on TikTok. Click the Linktree link, and the top thing that comes up on the page will have Vlad's PayPal info. Please feel free to use it and give to support the Ukrainians. All right. Russia has decreased the number of ground attacks against the town of Avdiivka. It's been trying to capture without success in the eastern Ukraine, but they've increased the number of airstrikes. Sweden's NATO bid, really no news other than it's up to Erdogan now. It was submitted to the Turkish parliament, but the speed at which the Turkish parliament decides to debate it and pass it and everything else, it's up to Erdogan, the president, and let's see. Right. But it's not clear that Erdogan, I'm still not convinced Erdogan wants this to happen anytime soon. Elon Musk decided to weigh in and once again suggest that Ukraine should just give up all the territory that Russia has occupied, because Elon's afraid of World War III. Elon's actually afraid of his business interests, but whatever. Sky News says another Russian oil executive has died. This is at the same company where the chairman of the board fell. I was going to say thrown, fell from a hospital window shortly after the company took a stand against the invasion. What a surprise. Putin's spokesman Peskov denied that Putin is dying and has cancer and just had a heart attack. And Ukraine's European Union membership, there will be some big decisions taken in November and December, where a preliminary assessment will be done in November as to sort of how Ukraine's doing in terms of being progressing in I guess, meeting some goals that the European Union gave it. And then if Ukraine has progressed sufficiently, the European Union will enter into formal accession talks with Ukraine, possibly announcing that in December. So that won't happen for a while. I mean, they wouldn't join the EU for another, 6-7 years easily, but it still would be the beginning of the process, which would be really good. And that is it for the news, guys. So, all right, I'm going to head off. And I'll see you tomorrow. We can try to do Discord tomorrow night. Thank you, Jeremy. But yeah, we did it last night, so I'd like to take a break. Otherwise, thank you for joining us, guys. Thank you, mods. And I'll be back tomorrow, like I said, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, US. Thank you, Darian and Kronos. And I think that's it. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you, Super Hornet and Josu. I was going to say Josue, and then I went Josu. Thanks, guys. All right. Yep. I'll be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, US, as usual. All right. And remember, our auctions, go check out the Discord. The auctions all end throughout the day tomorrow. So do go chip in. Remember, half the final bid is going to go back to Ukraine as aid, and half of it will go to support my work. So it all goes to a good cause. So thank you for that. All right, guys. Have a very good night. See y'all.